Fellas, the 4th anniversary has finally arrived to Blue Archive Global as we're heading to the Millennium Expo as part of the new event Codebox Shadow Looming Over Millennium. And this week, we are at long last getting both the highly anticipated 4th Fest units, Rio and Uniform Neru, with Swimsuit Hanako being the rerun anniversary unit. In this video, I will mainly be reviewing Rio, whereas Uniform Neru will be reviewed in a separate video, which will be uploaded a day or two after this video is out. Anyways, without further ado, here is a short review of Rio. Good golly gumdrops fellas, I'm super excited cause Millennium's 2 co-president and Semna's leader, who's an expert in money laundering, is finally here. It's big sister aka Rio. I am a massive fan of hers cause for one, I especially love that lustrous long black hair and her big fringe in the front seals the deal for me. Also, like many other senseis, those enchanting cold red eyes are my favorite part of her design. It feels like she's staring right into your soul, quietly and intently watching your every move. There's also that really short black skirt flaunting those luscious sexy legs that's even hotter in her pantyhose, and those voluptuous calcium cannons hidden behind that white turtleneck. Though I'm not exactly big on her regular portraits art style, in my opinion her winter outfit looks way better. And don't get me started on her bodysuit, which will look amazing in-game once it arrives. Overall, I really like Rio, not just cause of her design, but also her get moe personality of liking weird things like avant-garde and being shy, her friendship with Himari that is low-key hilarious, and her deep regret of her actions towards Aris, as well as her determination to right her wrongs, have really made me appreciate her as a character. Plus, I'm glad my Rio bros are winning after waiting a long time, especially the GOAT Asayuki sensei. So, what kind of student is she? Well, Rio is a limited fest special mystic supporter who has the following terrain moods: A combat power in urban terrains, B combat power in field, and S combat power indoors. Plus, she rocks shoes, pin and watch as her equipment, a set used by only a few other students, including her best friend Himari. Now, let's go into detail about her kit. Ever since her release, Rio has become one of the strongest supporters in the game, even being an extremely meta unit. And this is mainly due to her unique EX skill. With it, she is able to duplicate one unit's EX skill for a single use, with this copied EX being immediately redrawn and inheriting all attributes of that targeted ally's EX skill while reducing its base cost by 1. Plus, she also increases that ally's attack by 51.4% at max level for 20 seconds, being able to do all this for a very cheap 2 cost. Starting with a potent attack buff, it has allowed Rio to become the primary attack hyper buffer in quite a lot of main teams and content, cause even though her attack buff is much less potent compared to Kamhare's or Himari's, it is still pretty good since it can increase their attack by slightly more than half, plus her added duplication ability very much compensates for her lower values. However, this doesn't mean that both Kamhare and Himari have been power crap, cause you can and would still utilize them in separate teams, or in specific situations /team comps that either require striker buffers like Kamhare, cause maybe the special slot is reserved for other important units, or those that need Himari's stronger attack buff. So, while Rio has generally become the preferred attack buffer in a ton of content and teams, it also definitely depends on the circumstance, cause in certain cases, Himari or Kamhare can be the better option. Also, its 20-second duration is pretty decent. It's still relatively short, especially when compared to some other attack buffers, but it's still sufficient for a single rotation, and it is longer than Himari's. Now, let's discuss her EX's main appeal and the most important part of her kit, her duplication ability. Here's how it essentially works. You use her EX on a targeted ally, giving that unit her potent attack buff, while copying that unit's EX skill as indicated by her EX card, turning into that unit's EX, having the same appearance. And it is immediately redrawn into your hand for one use, being able to exist simultaneously with the original. This duplicated EX basically has the same exact attributes and statuses like buffs and multipliers as the original, with the only difference being that the duplicated's EX base cost is cheaper by 1. So think of it like a second cheaper version of the targeted ally's EX. use. Other than that, the duplicated EX has no time limit. It can remain in your hand forever, but you will not be able to redraw Rio's EX card again until you use it. Plus, it unfortunately does not work on special or TS units as you cannot target them, though you can dupe Ibuki's card before she hops aboard Toramaru for double join EX. And finally, if the targeted student is defeated, the duplicated card will revert back to Rio's original EX. Thus, as you can see, this duplication ability is what makes her EX so unique, as she's the first and only student so far who has this special skill. Plus, it is also extremely powerful because it allows for smoother, cheaper double EX activations in a single rotation, resulting in stronger damage bursts, and you'll be able to take down the enemy at a faster rate, opening up opportunities for various different strategies / team comps and unconventional rotations. So you would typically use her EX on damage dealers outside of certain exceptions. This very powerful ability, combined with her potent attack buff, has led her to become a hugely meta unit in most content since her release, being used to buff DPS units such as Chiaki, Nozomi, Swimsuit Hanako, Okamo, DPS Arm Toshino, Aru, Dress Hina, Mika, Uniform Neru, who by the way greatly benefits from the duplication ability since her power increases the more times she uses her enhanced EX, and many more whom you can experiment with. Before we move on, there are a few special situations to take note of when using her duplication ability. For one, the duplication's -1 cost effect can kind of overlap with other units' cost-cutting skills. So, for example, when using Rio and a cost cutter like New Fuka or Seiya on, let's say, Mika, activating Rio's duplication first will reduce the Mika EX skill dupe from 6 to 5. Then using New Fuka on Mika will have both the original and dupe down to 3 costs. Meanwhile, using Rio on Mika after New Fuka will immediately change the dupe's cost to 3, so either method will lead to both having a combined 6 costs. Another example is Uniform Neru, who has an initial 1 cost EX. Using Rio first will decrease the dupe's cost to 0, then activating the dupe will convert the original to its second form, which is 4 costs, though the dupe is sent back into the deck if you had both in your hand. So Seiya on New Fuka on her second EX to decrease the originals from 4 to 2, and using Rio again to copy the second EX form will also change the dupe's cost to 2. But using the original's 1 cost EX instead of the dupe's first will leave both in the deck and convert them to Neru's second EX. Also remember, using the dupe will still consume one of the halved cost effects. There's also Swimsuit Shiroko's basic skill that decreases all units' EX cost by 1 for a single use at the start of battle, which not only reduces Rio's original 2 cost EX to 1, but it also stacks with Rio's -1 cost effect, resulting in a -2 cost, so you can even copy a 2 cost EX and the dupe will turn to 0. Next, her duplication can get complicated when used on specific units. In particular, when copying units with gauges like Swimsuit Hanako or Swimsuit Hiyori, using the dupe won't take up a stack. So with Swimsuit Hanako, you'd use Rio to dupe, and if you have 2 charges, you can technically use Swimsuit Hanako's EX 4 times, her original 3 times like usual, plus the duped EX, and the order you use them in doesn't matter. Finally, there's Dress Hina's case. TLDR, when duplicating Dress Hina's EX and you have both the dupe and original available at the same time, always just use the latter first. As you can see, after duping her EX, when both the original and dupe are in your hand at the same time, you must always use Hina's original EX first before the copy, as using the dupe first will change it into the shortcuts for a brief moment before going back into the deck, and Hina's original EX will instantly proc, so you would only have your normal 3 shots and the dupe will go to waste. But using the original first will change both EXs to the shortcuts, and shooting the originals will reduce the count on both. However, after using up all 3 shots from Hina's original EX, the dupe will remain and be converted back into Hina's portrait, which you can then activate to get another 3 shots, effectively allowing her to fire 6 shots. Though keep in mind that when firing these shots from her original EX, you mustn't use any from the duplicated one, otherwise the dupe will be removed while taking up a shot from the original. Moving on, her basic skill deals small damage to one enemy with its 297% multiplier at level 10, while implanting a 25.5% defense down debuff on them for 19 seconds. Plus, it also has a relatively average proc time of 30 seconds, meaning there's only a 11-second downtime between activations after the initial special one. While her basics defense threat value doesn't seem that potent, this skill is still actually quite useful, cause defense debuffs coming from basic skills are always welcome, especially since it's stackable with those from an EX. Also, even though her basic can deal a bit of damage, it isn't that important anyway, as its main appeal is still its defense debuff. Next, her enhanced skill increases her attack by 26.6% at max level, slightly improving her basics damage by a small amount, which again isn't important. And she has the universal attack sub-skill that a number of other students have, passively boosting your entire team's attack by 17.3% at level 10 skill. Plus, combine this with her EX's attack buff, allows her to provide a massive 68.7% attack buff to your DPS unit, significantly increasing their damage output. Though remember, you cannot stack it with other units who have the same exact sub-skill. While she might not have a cost recovery sub like Kisaki or Swim's Shiroko, in my opinion, it's actually a blessing, cause it means that their subs won't overlap and you can use them together, especially the former, without worrying about wasting such a useful sub-skill. Finally, her enhanced skill plus at UA40 provides her with an additional 19% buff retention, extending the duration of her EX's attack buff to around 23 to 24 seconds, which can be helpful for slightly longer rotations. But if you don't have the resources, or if you don't care about min-maxing your rotations, then 3 stars is more than enough. Meanwhile, at UA50, her indoor combat power is upgraded from S to SS, though like many other special hyper buffers, this isn't needed cause her damage output doesn't matter. All in all, Rio is a very powerful and meta buffer due to her unique ability to copy one unit's EX skill. Plus, she can also grant potent attack buffs through her EX and sub skills, while being a decent defense shredder with her basic. So, let's talk about her users. As a meta special hyper buffer, Rio can and has been used in pretty much most content aside from PvP, being extremely flexible mainly due to her EX skill. The content that you can use her in range from regular stuff like missions, bounties, scrims, etc. to most joint firing drills, since she can help with getting faster clears by letting your DPS units proc their EX more times. And most importantly, endgame content like raids and final restriction, where Rio has essentially become a meta unit in almost every single one. I won't go into detail about her usage against each and every boss, but essentially her role in these raids is very simple. Use her EX at the right time to duplicate your DPS unit's EX skill, allowing them to dish out tons more damage as you can spam their EX skill as a result of a duplication, subsequently leading to smoother and faster clears cause you'll be able to nuke the boss quicker, further resulting in higher scores. Not to mention, her potent attack buff combined with her universal attack sub-skill will significantly increase their damage output. Her best partner is also usually Kisaki, as her EXQ damage buff and cost recovery sub can both further improve your DPS unit's EXQ damage while allowing for faster rotations, which is why you'd often see them together in a lot of teams, though you can obviously still use other special hyper buffers alongside her if you need to. While there are certain situations where she isn't used by the top players, such as in specific one-punch/speedrunning teams for certain raids, particularly on Insane and below, you can obviously still bring her into your teams, especially for Insane and above, as she will be a massive help in clearing the raid. Plus, on Torment and Lunatic, where you would most likely need multiple teams, Rio will almost always see a place in one of them, as her duplication ability will absolutely be required in order to beat the boss on these difficulties. Not only that, she also becomes a little more effective against bosses with high defense like Bina, Hyro, Peroro, and Kurokage, as a basic skill can help to slightly decrease their exorbitant defense. Thus, with all these, Rio has cemented herself as a meta unit in most raids and final restriction stages, finding a place in at least one of most Sensei's teams for nearly every difficulty/flaw, especially the harder ones like Insane to Lunatic or Flaw 75 and above. And how you use her EX in these content very much depends, as it may vary based on your team comp and the strategies you have in mind. That being said, she isn't useful for some bosses like Gregorius, where special units or other special hyper buffers are favored in her slot, Gebura, where special DPS units are utilized instead due to their increased damage, plus there's There's also Fury of Set where AA units shine the most, so Rio's duplication ability is less required, though you may still use her in these if you need to. In conclusion, should you pull for Rio? Well, in my opinion, I would classify her as a must-pull unit, since she is a meta hyper buffer in a lot of content, due to her EXQ's unique duplication ability that no other student currently has. So she would definitely help you clear a lot of content faster and more smoothly, especially in endgame ones like raids. Not to mention, nearly everyone and their mother will also be using Rio in their teams for most raids. So if you don't get her, you might not be able to compete with these senseis to get plat, and you may be stuck with gold looks better anyways, RG don't know, especially if your server is competitive. Not only that, purely gameplay wise, I personally feel you should prioritize pulling her over Swimsuit Hanako and Uniform Neru, as she is much more special and flexible, being used in a lot more content. So in my opinion, your priority list should be Rio, then Swimsuit Hanako if you don't have her yet, though reminder you can still get her in the other two banners, then Uniform Neru. Plus remember, FES banners always have double drop rate for 3-star characters, excluding the on-banner unit. So this is the perfect time to pull, cause not only will you have a good chance of getting units that you don't already have, including previous anniversary units, but it is also an opportunity to get more Eligma, which you can use to buy extra Rio, Swimsuit Hanako, or Uniform Neru LFs in case you don't get additional copies. Not just that, Rio is a limited FES unit who won't return until the 4.5 anniversary, plus her banner will only rerun like in a year, so now would be the best time to get her. Hence with all these, I would hard recommend pulling for Rio, but not just her, Uniform Neru too, as well as Swimsuit Hanako if you don't have her, provided you have the Pyroxenes to do so, cause the both of them are DPS units who will greatly benefit from Rio's duplication ability, though I personally feel your priority should still be Rio. But if you're focused on pulling for your waifu, maybe Rio is your favorite student and you want to lick her feet and pat her head in her L2D, then go ahead and pull for whoever you want. And that's all for this review. Again, the Uniform Neru review will be uploaded in a separate video, which should hopefully be out a day or so later. I'll leave the link in the pinned comment once it's out. Anyways, that's all from me. Thanks for watching, good luck with your pulls, and I'll see y'all in the next one.